So, welcome everyone to today's Grow Session Website Design Checklist. As you know, building a website can feel like a giant puzzle. Where do you even start? Whether you're doing it yourself or working with a designer, having a solid plan makes all the difference. So, today, our guest speaker, Emily Watson, is going to provide us with a website strategy, worksheet, and checklist. Your new best friend for planning a website that actually works and not just looking pretty. By the end, you'll have a clear, stress free game plan so you can stop overthinking and start building. So, if you haven't had a chance to meet Emily in some of our past sessions, Emily's a graphic designer and social media specialist. She's one of the creative minds that helped us start Grow, for one, and Acorn Studio Marketing. For 8+ years, Emily's been helping entrepreneurs and organizations build their visual brand stories and engage with their online communities. She continues to support us here in Acorn Studio Marketing as well as Grow. Even though she's moved off to another design firm, we're so glad when she comes back. And when Emily's not on the computer, she often is unplugged reading a book or out in nature or at the gym. So if you want to learn more and connect with Emily, please check out her website at emilyk.ca.
So, today we are going to talk about your website and specifically a website design checklist. Everything that you need to do for preparation, you getting started, and then right before you launch. Um, Most people, from what I understand, are currently working on their website, building a website, working with a designer, or building multiple websites. So, this checklist and this presentation is going to be perfect for you. What we're going to go over. So first, we're going to talk about steps you should be taking before actually getting started with the design process. Then, because there are so many design tips and tricks, we're going to go over a few of my favorites. And then we're going to finish off with talking about, specific technical things that we need to do before we actually launch the website. Now, before we jump into a website, whether we are doing it ourselves or working with a designer, there are a few things that we need to make sure we have set in stone. And we need to have, and whether you're working with, like I said, like a designer or yourself, this process should run alongside your business plan, your marketing plan. Um, so before we get started, we need to have a good understanding of our business, and we need to have our branding. So for your business, we need to have, the goals, the mission of your business, the values that you're going to bring forward, what makes you stand out. And for branding, we need to have all of your brand assets organized. And for reference, we did a presentation previously on all of your brand assets, the checklist, what you need, and then a really cool filing system. Next, you're going to need to have all of your website information. So please, please, you need to have your domain, your contact info, a solid, no, it doesn't even need to be solid, a basic plan of what is going to be on your website, including copy, images, video, courses, a simple plan just to help you get started or to help your designer get started. If you are working with a designer, there are a few questions that they're going to ask you. And even if you're not working with a designer, these are some questions that you still should be able to answer. There are a lot of questions coming from a website designer. There are a lot of questions that I do ask, but these are some of the core ones that I always want to make sure that we get straight before we get started. First one being, can you give me any details about your target audience and who's actually going to be visiting your website? Your target audience is very, very important. We need to know, like I said, who is going to be visiting your website, the experience that they're going to have, and what they're going to be looking for, which goes into the next question of the goals of your website. What are your primary goals? This will give us a really good structure of how to set it up properly to make sure that your audience is going there for the right reason. The next question, we talk about your competitors. So who are your competitors and how do you compare as a business? This will help make sure that we're designing something that allows you to stand out from the competitors. And how do you want people to experience your website? This thought process will help you, help the designer make sure that the flow everything is laid out properly so that they have the experience that you want them to have. And if you have answered all of these questions, your designer is going to give you a gold star, just like in elementary school when you would complete a really pretty drawing or you'd get an A on your test, you got that gold star on the top. I'll give you one if you can answer all of these questions. So now we're all set. We're ready. We have all the necessary things that we need. We're going to start designing. And these are some of my favorite things that I always put on a checklist. Number one, please use high quality images in your website. This will help when you scale your website up, when you scale your website down. It'll ensure that no matter what size, your images are going to look crisp and clean, professional, and it makes your website just look a little bit more put together. Important reminder that when you are putting your images on your website, that they are compressed. A website that I use a lot is tinypng.com, and it just keeps the quality, but helps the size of the images to not slow down your website. And then making sure that all of your images are properly named. This helps a lot with SEO. So when you do like Google search for images, it helps pick up those images off your website. So please make sure that your images are not labeled untitled-2.png. Give them a name. The next one is brand consistency. So ensure that all your colors, your fonts, patterns are consistent through every single one of your pages. And that all of your branding matches all of your other brand materials, like your social media, print materials, all that fun stuff. And if we need a reminder of your brand, refer back to your brand style guide, which we should have at this point. The next thing is if you are using a website builder, please adjust your default settings. A lot of the times, these website building platforms will have default graphics or default pages like your favicon or your 404 page, your footer, social media links, and like your under construction page. We want to make sure that all of that is customized for your brand, for your business. So when it comes time to launch, some of those things don't pop up and make your website look a little bit incomplete. Before we launch, we're going to check to make sure that our website is responsive so that your website looks good on laptop, it looks good on monitor, tablet, and phone. So everything looks great. A lot of these website platforms do have a built-in tool to like scale your pages down, scale your pages up, but it still should be on your checklist to make sure that they all work because sometimes things might overlap, sometimes things might bleed off of the screen. It is your responsibility to make sure that every single one works on all devices. The next would be your header and paragraph text. Sometimes this does get overlooked, and I want to make sure that everybody realizes that this is a very important piece of your design. So each page on your website needs a proper heading, like your H1, and a proper paragraph, like P2. This creates hierarchy and helps with people who skim read. It's making sure that they get the right piece of information, even if they're reading quickly. This also helps a lot with SEO, so highlighting relevant keywords, phrases. It makes it easier for Google to pick up and to understand when people are searching. A lot of the times when you are in your website builder, they will automatically assign your H1, H2, H3, and then your paragraph text, so P1, P2, P3. But it's always a good idea just to go in and make sure everything is sized properly and you understand the hierarchy and where things are actually going to be positioned. So we've talked about design, and we've got kind of the basics. We're ready. We think we're ready to launch, but we're just going to make sure because we're going to run through this checklist. So before we launch, we're going to check the following. We're going to check that the website is mobile, iPad, tablet, laptop, desktop friendly, which we already did. We already talked about that. We're going to make sure that our pages load quickly, so between 0 to 2 seconds. And what will really help with this is making sure your images are compressed, which we did talk about. Every page has one title and opening paragraph to help with SEO. We talked about that already. We're going to remove website builder branding, right? Those default settings. Favicon is updated. All images are properly named. Your 404 page is properly linked and designed. Your analytics are set up, linked, and running. This is a really good one to have at the very beginning. We don't want to miss any sort of data. So if you have it set up in the beginning, we don't have to worry about it later. Your SEO, your social media image, your profile image is set up for each page. Now, this is the image that if you were to copy a link from a certain page, upload it to Facebook or send it as a text message, it's that image that shows up. Having that set up and designed properly will make your website just look that much more put together. Please, please, please make sure that all of your buttons are properly linked before you launch. The last thing you want is people contacting you saying, oh, this resource that I wanted to access is not available. The button is taking me to a 404 page, or it's taking me somewhere else. Please make sure all of your links are connected properly. We also, before we're going to launch, we're going to test every single one of our forms, our contact forms, our newsletter sign-up forms, make sure everything is going to the right place. And along with checking to make sure that your website is responsive, we're going to check the browser compatibility, making sure that it works on Chrome, Firefox, Safari. In most cases, they will work across all, but there are some cases where, images might not load on one, and that takes some investigation. So make sure that it works on all browsers. And then please make sure that your social media links are updated. They're linking to the right spot because people might want to see more of you. They might want to follow your story. So if we make sure those are linked, there's going to be no problems down the road. Now, there are a lot more things to check and a lot more things to plan. So Laura and I have put together a very extensive checklist worksheet to help you plan out your entire website. It's going to talk about your target audience. It's going to talk about each individual page, give you ideas on what to put on those pages, as well as your header, your footer. And then at the very end, there's actually a glossary. So if you are working with a designer, sometimes we use terminology that is common to us, but might not be so common to everybody else. Or even if you are working in a website builder by yourself and there are some terms that they use, just making sure that you are on the right track and understand. There's a glossary at the very end. And Laura is going to put that in the chat. And now we are ready for Q&A.